Hello, Prime Minister of Poland. This is me, Ayub Hamidi, from the platform of projectgreenearth.org from Stockholm, Sweden. As we all know, that between the decade of 1970 to 1980, economies across the globe experienced three crises when it comes to the energy supplies. As a result of these three consecutive energy crises in a decade, some countries across the globe or some economies across the globe went into the direction of renewables. On the contrary, there were other countries that went into the direction of some other sources of power supply when it comes to fossil fuels of power production. Poland was one of the examples that prioritizes coal as a source of power production in the 1970s. Now, one of the biggest challenges, in my personal opinion, for your administration and Poland as a country for the coming 16 years is around 60 of the coal-based power plants that were constructed in the decade of 1970s will complete their lifespan by 2035. Now, this represents a very interesting opportunity for your administration and Poland as a country, that once these coal-based power plants would complete their lifespan, will retire, you can actually choose renewables over these coal-based power plants. This would not only help Poland in reducing its carbon emissions, but would also help European Union as a whole to reduce its emissions as well. As we all know, that EU as a whole is one of those areas that emits the most CO2 on an annual basis. I guess if I remember it correctly, it's the third largest emitter of CO2 on global level after China and USA. So you can actually, your administration and your right action at the right time can really help Poland in reducing its emissions, as well as EU as a whole in reducing its emissions on global level too. In 2015, Poland produced something like 83.7% of its electricity from coal as a source of power production. The coal that Poland actually uses to produce electricity is either hard coal or lignite. In 2015, Poland has a total installed capacity of 40.4 gigawatts, out of which 28.6 gigawatts were coal. The further distribution when it comes to installed electricity generation capacity in Poland is like 19.3 gigawatts represents hard coal, and another 9.3 gigawatts represents lignite. It's quite sad to mention here that the coal as a source of power production has seen an exponential growth in Poland, as it produced around 5,000 gigawatt hours of electricity in 1950, whereas the amount of electricity that was generated from coal exponentially grew to 130,000 gigawatt hours in 2015. On the contrary, renewables as a whole has also seen a growth in Poland as well. For example, in 2004, Poland produced something like 2.2% of its total electricity from renewables. That actually observed a healthy growth, and Poland produced something like 13.4% of its total electricity from renewables in 2015. When it comes to renewables in Poland, wind plays a major role, as it has an installed capacity of 4.6 gigawatts. On the contrary, solar is one of the least used source of power production when it comes to renewable. Between the decade of 2005 to 2015, the growth rate in solar PV as a source of power production was quite flat in Poland. On the contrary, the world actually has seen a very healthy growth in the sector of solar PV as a power production. For example, in 2007, the total installed global solar PV capacity was somewhere like 4 gigawatts, whereas in 2017, it exponentially grew to somewhere like 404 gigawatts. So can be the case of Poland. For example, in coming 16 years, if your administration would choose to prioritize solar PV over coal as a source of power production. One of the key reasons that would really help your administration in not only making the right decision is that solar PV and wind as a source of power production is one of the cleaner sources of power production, as 95% components of solar PV and wind turbines can be recycled. It is one of the cleanest sources of power production. It's really good for the environment. It consumes least amount of water. On the contrary, coal is one of the most water intensive source of power production. It is the most polluted source of power production when it comes to CO2 emissions. China as a country can be an excellent source of solar PV supply for Poland, as China is the largest producer of solar PV panels across the globe. So the reason, in my personal opinion, why choosing coal would be a bad option for Poland is like it is one of the most polluted sources of power production. It is one of the most water intensive source of power production. Simultaneously, scientific research has proved that CO2 emissions as a result of the usage of coal, oil and gas is mainly responsible for climate change. So by choosing solar PV, wind, and waste to energy source of power production over coal can really help Poland in the implementation of Paris Climate Agreement, and it can really help EU as a whole region when it comes to the implementation of Paris Climate Agreement. As we all know, that EU as a whole is amongst the topmost emitters of CO2 on annual basis at the global level. I guess it's the third one after China and US. So when it comes to the expansion of wind as a source of power production and waste to energy power plants, assembling waste to energy power plants in Poland, Sweden can really help you out, as both of these sources of power production are really mature in Sweden. For example, Sweden produces somewhere like 3 megawatts of energy from each ton of waste, out of which 2 megawatts is electricity and 1 megawatt is heat. So by seeking a strong collaboration between the Swedish government, energy sector in Sweden, and energy sector in Poland, Poland can really harvest strong positive benefits that would not only help Poland as an individual country, EU as a region, but rest of the world as well when it comes to the implementation of sustainable development. So prioritizing solar PV, wind, and waste to energy sources would really help your administration, Poland as a country, for not only in the present but for the coming decade as well, and would really help Poland to move in the right direction when it comes to move in the right direction in the energy sector. Thank you so much. And just last one thing to finish this talk is there is no planet B. We only have one Earth. So your right decision at the right time would really help us in creating a world that will be not only sustainable for us but for our coming generations as well. Thank you for your time and attention. Take care. Bye.